our open part of our school board meeting, and we'll proceed with the agenda, and we are at the approval of minutes. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the October 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There's no public comment. So next to the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Personnel recommendations: Christy Madlam, teaching assistant; Robert Chahosky, wrestling coach; Michael Rose, freshman basketball coach; Adam McDaniel, freshman basketball coach. Approval of the October 2023 expenditure report. 3, ratification of the September 2023 payroll report. I need a motion.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Barron?
Yes.
Okay, next, we're at our favorite part, information discussion, and we have the Capel Club presentation.
Open it? Yeah. Do you think we should? Yeah. Okay. Hi guys, my name's Haley and this is Lana, and we're current seniors at Westmont High School, and we're co-founders and co-presidents of CAPAL, which is the Club of Asian Pacific Americans of Westmont, and we're here today to present Ascend to you. So Ascend stands for Asian Student Conference for Education, Networking, and Development. So what is Ascend? Our goal with Ascend is to connect Asian American high schoolers in the local area with each other through this conference. So we want to celebrate our culture, explore curiosity, and increase the learning and collaboration present in these communities. And what is our goal? Proceeding with Ascend, we really want to use this as an opportunity to value Asian American cultures, as well as use it for an opportunity for Westmont High School to build connections with our neighboring communities. And we want this to be an experience and a place where personal growth is encouraged throughout everybody as through an educational way. And we want to align Ascend's virtues and values with Westmont High Schools, where we build a strong place for diversity, community, and equality. So Ascend is scheduled to take place on March 2nd of 2024 at Westmont High School from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And what is a day at Ascend going to look like? We really want to kick off this event with a strong keynote speaker that we feel like will align their values with that of Ascend's to give proper tone and mood. And then after that, we are going to break up our participants into 2 to 3 workshops where they choose based off of their own personal interests. And then afterwards, we will be hosting a lunch, and then after the lunch, we will break them off into the fellow workshops that they have not gone to yet. And then afterwards, at the end, we want to use it as a time for everybody to get to know one another on a communal aspect and a friendship bonding way. So where are we at now with our official launch of Ascend? So over the past 6 months, me and Lana have worked to start our outreach with other schools in the area. We've reached out to a lot of schools such as Downers Grove North, Hinsdale Central, Hinsdale South, and we've even expanded to some schools in Chicago like Lane Tech, and all of these schools have shown preliminary interest in our conference and are excited to be a part of it. We've also nailed down our keynote speaker as a man named Ho Chi Sai. If you're not familiar with him, he's a prominent leader in the Taiwanese American community, and he's very well versed in speaking to Asian American high school students. So he's going to be flying in from California to come to our conference, and not only is his foundation, the Taiwanese American Foundation, willing to give us $500 to help financially launch Ascend, but it's also going to fund his honorarium to come here because he is flying in from California. We've also started our own independent fundraising using SnapRaise. Over the past 2 weeks, we've raised $940, and we still have 2 weeks to go, and we plan to not only reach our goal of $1,000, but surpass it.
And what will be Ascend's next following steps? For the next couple of months, we will continue to plan and network with other schools to gain publicity with Ascend and then scope out general interest with this event. And then we will also create more relationships with workshop leaders.
So we want to thank you guys so much for your time, and we look forward to representing Westmont in March of 2024 with Ascend. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let us know. But thank you for listening.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome,
That was
guys.
great. How do we get that snap out to more people?
So right now, the way that our Snap Raise works is we, all of our leadership boards in the club sent out 20 emails to like people we know personally.
Okay.
There is a general fundraising link, but we wanted to start off with people we personally knew, like in our community and family and friends.
Is that for this first year, is there a limit to the schools in the area that can join in? I know just for maybe timing and planning it might be, but.
We're looking to have about 100 people around that area. We don't want to like shoot too big our first year, but we have like started making those connections, and we do think there's like a large community who's willing to like come and support us and be a part of this project.
Have you guys reached out to the village board and the Sister City program? Because they might help you out too.
That's
with
a great
funding.
suggestion. They would at least like to know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
Mayor
a sister
for
city in
sure.
Taiwan. You familiar with that, right?
Hey, Jeremy.
So we do know those folks, and I've actually run into them at the grocery store, and we've talked about just our relationship and building that up to this. The only danger is the Taiwanese American community here is so strong, like very, very strong, and that's a plus to us. We didn't want it to be all Taiwanese because we're, so we wanted to make sure we represent all the facets of Asian American culture in communities such as South Asian and Southeast Asian, and we didn't want it to be overly heavy on East because that's what most people use. But we do value their input, and we will definitely be reaching out to them.
Makes sense.
So is this the first type of this conference, like Ascend? Will this be the very first overall, or have there been other conferences held, like Ascend in, I don't know, Southern Illinois?
Not like in this area or in this community. It's very like unique. Like we've tried to find like other programs like in this area, and we haven't, which is why we wanted to like start it and have Westmont pioneer it.
Nice. I love it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Yes.
And if you give us permission to approach the board.
Wait a minute, do I see red
Have a small
envelopes?
gift for you.
I know red envelopes.
We reach out to our prospective members during the school year and give them a small gift like this as a thank you and a welcome to, hopefully a welcome to our club.
Well, thank you, you guys. The presentation was fantastic. I enjoy your enthusiasm, well thought out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Red envelopes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.
All right. It's
It's gonna be a busy weekend in February.
Wonderful.
I wanna go.
Show the envelope.
It's beautiful, yeah.
We're going to move to our next item, CUSD 201, summative designation review.
Right?
I know, this is not as exciting, but there is really great stuff to share. So, we should probably stand here, right? So this is the summative designation review. So we're just going to review a little bit of data that just came out. So we'll do a brief overview of the summative designation indicators and the weights from the Illinois State Board of Education. I will not bore you with all of the details. Summative designations are something that come out every October. What I'm going to share with you today will be public October 30th, so it's not fully official just yet. So October 30th is when you'll be able to see it online. It'll be public. So what is an annual summative designation? Illinois State Board of Education comes up with this calculation. It's a multiple measures index of academic achievement and student success. It's done annually based on the prior year's performance. And it's really designed to identify schools who need additional support and to celebrate those great things that are happening in schools all over the state. There are 5 annual summative designations. There's exemplary, which is your top 10% in the state of Illinois. Commendable, and then in that top 10%, sorry, for exemplary, it's the top 10% of all schools, and they have no underperforming subgroups. The commendable schools, they are not in the overall top 10%, they're in the middle, but they also have no underperforming subgroups. And then there's targeted support, comprehensive support, intensive support. It's USD 201, all schools are in exemplary or commendable. So Westmont High School is exemplary, and then the 3 elementary buildings are commendable. This is what the indicators, so to get this summative score that I'm talking about, these are the indicators in the weights. So for elementary and middle school, 25% of that calculation is on ELA growth, 25% is from the math growth on the IAR assessment. ELA proficiency is only 7.5% from the IAR assessment. Math proficiency is only 7.5% from the IAR assessment. Science is 5%, it's on the proficiency score. And then there's a 5% EL, progress to proficiency, and that's the EL students in our school district, that's just their growth. 20% of our score comes from chronic absenteeism, which is 10% or more, students who are absent 10% or more of the school year. And then a climate survey, which is the 5 essentials survey, it's just participation. So if you have 100% of your students and your staff take that survey, you get 100% of the points in that category. And then high school is a little bit different. 50% of high school's summative score is from the graduation rate. They have the same calculation with math and ELA proficiency with 7.5% for each. Science is 5%, just like the elementary. EL progress to proficiency is 5%. Chronic absenteeism for the high school is 10% rather than 20% for the elementary. 9th grade on track is 8.3%. And the climate survey, again, that's just the participation of it, is 6.67%. So when they give these summative scores, it is, they take all of these, and I'm not going to bore you, but essentially the report we get is lengthy, and it breaks it down by all the subgroups. It'll give you an all score with all students together. It'll break it down by subgroups, and then it's a 4-step process. So the state of Illinois does a raw calculation, then they convert it to an indicator score, a weighted index score, they assign an effective weight, and then they add up the weighted index to come up with your summative score. So the summative score is 0 through 100. 100 is the highest score that you can get. So this is what CUSD 201 looks like, the summative designation data. So just again, remember that it's not official until after October 30th, and they will be public on the Illinois State Report Card online. So Westmont High School is exemplary with earning 97.17% of the points out of 100. Westmont Junior High School is commendable. They had 63.87 points out of 100. Manning Elementary is 70.55 points out of 100, and then Miller is commendable with 66.76 points out of 100. The cutoff score for being exemplary for elementary was 81.33 this year. To be comprehensive and targeted support is 34.35, and then high school, the exemplary score is 91.24, and the comprehensive targeted support score is 13.44. So the high school is well above exemplary, and the elementary schools are solidly commendable. So they're not close to being comprehensive or targeted support. So we're in really good shape here in District 201. This is what you will see when you log into Illinois Report Card coming up on October 30th. So each school, you can see where we earned all of our points and where we lost some points. So for the high school, 97 out of 100 points, and we earned all of our points in almost every category except for chronic absenteeism in the high school.
Can we, before we go to the next slide, I just want to say this. So that all 665 high schools in Illinois get a score. Last year, Westmont was number 2 out of 665. That's by the Illinois State Board of Education. This year, our score is slightly lower by about a half a point, so we'll see where we're at compared to other schools. The other thing that's important to note is the climate survey. It doesn't matter if you are well-organized or poorly organized, you get, as long as enough people take the survey. And once again, we had at the high school the #1 score in Illinois out of 560 schools for performance on climate survey. For better or for worse, it doesn't matter if you have the best score or a mediocre score, it's just if you participate, you get the points. The other thing with the science proficiency, this was the first year for high schools. In the past, you just had to have participation. So if 95% of your kids took it, you got all the points. This is the first year that they actually looked at the scores and based your scoring. And I'm very proud to say that the high school science scores were the best we've ever had, and were really quite excellent. We don't know relative to other schools, but based on trend data, probably in the top 5% of the state, maybe higher.
So what's, you're saying like the slash is 8 in ELA, 8.04/8, so.
Yeah.
We got all the
Because you
points.
have the, okay,
Yeah.
8% of the total 100.
okay.
Yeah, so this is showing the weighted index score, which is that indicator score, which is the 0 to 100, multiplied by the effective weight to give you this weighted index score.
Okay. And that's
So-
the most we could get?
Yes, yes.
Is that the most
So if you were to give
school
it,
can get?
if it,
Okay.
yeah, if it were the indicator score, ELA proficiency would be 100 out of 100.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a really complicated formula, and if you're interested in that, I can share all the calculations with you. But I mean, the ISB, on their website, they have like a whole book of how they calculate it.
This graphic is very good. It
Yes.
was nice. Like, I was like tracking, and then I saw this graphic and I was
Yeah.
like, yep, there we go.
So this is the report that we get,
Okay.
and then
I
we
like
even get it broken down by student. So this is also broken down, what's nice is by subgroup. So CWD is children with disabilities, and then there's Hispanic, Latino, low income, white, and then it goes to other pages. So it breaks it down by subgroup. You can see where we're at compared to the state. You can see how all of our subgroups are doing. So it's really nice for us to look at, but the public will just see this because it's way easier to kind of see, like.
One last thing as a note to our community, we really have worked hard. The chronic absenteeism was the only place that we didn't get a perfect score. It's one of the most important reason for students to come to school is that they take full advantage of their education. But it is tracked by the state. So we need our students in school. And we understand that there may be days where you have a family vacation or a day where you're truly sick. But to miss excessive days is not good for you, and the state tracks it like a hawk.
Yep. And one thing to note about chronic absenteeism too is that the state does not care if it's excused or unexcused at all. An absence is an absence. So whether you call in and there's a good reason for it, it's still considered an absence. So 10% or more of the school year, if you miss it, you're considered chronically absent. So then this is just the big report that I was sharing that we get. Here's the junior high school. You can see that ELA proficiency and math proficiency, our junior high students did well and earned all their points. The climate survey, for whatever reason, didn't give us a score. This kind of like, the state of Illinois had some problems with this. We call it the house or the school. State of Illinois had some problems with this, but that commendable score is accurate. But really, the ELA growth in math growth and chronic absenteeism, you'll see in all of the schools is where we're really focused this year, because that's where we lost our points in the junior high in Manning and Miller. So, but proficiency, our climate survey, we have a lot to celebrate in our schools.
If we need to increase by about 18 points because you could be in the bottom 11% of the state and be commendable, or you could be in the top 11%. So the designation is not really very specific. To be commendable, you could be one of the lower performing schools in the state, bottom 11%, or you could be in the top 11.
Yeah.
And everybody gets commendable. But our goal as a district and for Westmont Junior High School is to increase the score by approximately 18 points. Most of those points will come, once again, message to our students and our community and our parents by attending. Number 2 and 3, growth in ELA and math.
So this is that breakdown report. This is Manning. Manning is close. Manning is so close to exemplary. They were last year, the year before as well. Again, though, the points are lost in ELA and math growth and then chronic absenteeism. So that's kind of just the trend in each building.
So they're 10 points away from exemplary, which is our target.
Yeah. And you could see chronic absenteeism, there was a decent amount of points lost there. So same with growth in math and ELA. And then Miller, this is Miller. The interesting thing with Miller is their proficiency and growth scores actually come from Manning. So since they do not take the IAR, their proficiency scores come from 3rd grade and their growth scores come from 4th grade. So they carry down because the idea is that Miller is the foundation for that. So then, you know, as kids go on to Manning, they're taking that foundation that they received from Miller with them. So
What about the absenteeism, is that?
Yeah.
chronic absenteeism is theirs.
So only chronic absenteeism is a true
Yeah.
reflection of last year at Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
I find it interesting too, but yeah, that's how the
Well,
state calculates
yeah.
it because,
I get it, yeah.
you know, their foundation, the Miller is really all that foundational work that really pumps up Manning, so. And then here's the breakdown there. And then if there are subgroups not represented, it's because there are not 20 students in that subgroup. So in order for the state to report on the subgroup, there has to be 20 students in that subgroup,
In the whole school, not, or in the whole grade?
in the whole school.
In the whole school. Yeah.
And then here is, we did a really big quality review in October, and we just reviewed all of the baseline data. So we've looked at IAR so much that our staff and everyone knows how we performed in IAR. But we looked at iReady. Our students took iReady in September. So at the quality review meeting, we looked at our baseline data, iReady baseline data in ELA and math, and we also looked at the SAT practice that they gave at the high school in ELA and math. And then I'm not going to go through this either, but this is really what we focused a lot on this in our quality review. This is ELA. If you can see the blue and the green, those are students who entered solidly on level. The yellow is 1 grade level below, and what's interesting about this is that, so say for instance, 1st grade, if they enter 1 grade level below, that could be exactly where they need to be because they haven't finished 1st grade yet, so they're 1 grade level below. But the yellow, it could also very easily, those kids could fall on the other side too. So the yellow students we really have to look out for and continue to monitor. We have to continue to monitor all of the students, but those students could really go either way because they could be exactly where they need to be, or they could just easily kind of fall to the other side. So this is ELA. And then here is our math scores, same thing there. When we did our quality review, we really dug into subgroups of our student subgroups. We looked at data student by student. We talked about different programming that we had. The action plan is what's going to be really exciting. We'll talk about that the next slide. So how is CUSD 201 responding? There's a lot to celebrate. So I have to say, before I go through all of these, I'm super impressed by our leadership in the buildings. I'm impressed by our teachers and our entire staff because they've really taken that message that started on Institute Day and they're just running with it in every single building. And it's really exciting. So what is our goal? What are we doing now? We're building on the success that we're already having because we have some great things to celebrate and we're just going to continue to build on that. Our district goals are around growth and proficiency, and you saw those a couple times already, but they're, we have an ELA growth and proficiency goal, we have a math growth and proficiency goal, and we have a PLC goal, and that's district-wide. We had our first quality review meeting in October. There were about 160 plus slides in that quality review meeting.
Goes tonight.
Yes.
Dr. Braun initiated and led the quality review meetings for each building, and there were 160 slides per building. If you want access to those, we could provide you those. But it was intense.
Each meeting was 2+ hours, so we met with each building, the leaders and the coaches in each building. And it was really well received by everyone. It was incredible to really see all of the work that's been happening in each school, in the follow through that's happening. So they're not just saying that we're doing all of these things, they are saying it and doing it and following through, and there's a lot of really amazing stuff happening in each building. And we just reviewed the baseline data and talked about where we were going to go. Are we on the right track? At that time, we looked at our action plans and talked about, is this still is this working? Is this still what we need to do? We updated those to make sure that we are moving forward and continuing to grow. So we'll have our next quality review meeting in January. That'll be monitoring growth, where we're really going to look at our second iReady to see how our kids have grown. Have they met their growth goals at that point in time? So we can continue to monitor and make sure that everyone is growing. Data analysis is something we continue to do. Weekly, the teachers do it in their collaborative team meetings on Wednesdays. Our principals do it bi-weekly during principal meetings. At every principal meeting, we talk about attendance data, and we reflect on ELA and math. And then we're just ensuring this year that close attention is paid to all subgroups. So we'll look at ethnicity and race, students with IEPs, low income, EL, and really make sure that our students are continuing to make progress. Attendance, our slogan is attendance matters, no more than 5. Our principals and staff have been in, I think secretaries, nurses have really taken control of this. They make phone calls home. They've done home visits. They provide parent education anytime that's needed, because a lot of times our parents they don't necessarily know. In COVID, you wanted to keep your kids home all of the time. Anytime there was a sniffle, that's changing now. So our school nurses, I know for sure the school nurse at Miller has been calling and having those conversations with parents, especially since, you know, our kids are the first time coming to school in kindergarten and first grade. So
Is there any way you can speak on that, especially with the chronic absenteeism and especially the ones that there are a large number of days missing, and how that's taken? With, you know, how is that going, I should say? With especially those kids that we worry about.
absolutely. Do you want to take that, Jack? You were
Go
going to
ahead.
say
I'll
something?
follow up.
Our principals and our staff have been all over it. So we have, we collect from our Skyward system all of the absences, and then we make phone calls if we see that they're kind of absent a certain percent of the school year. Phone calls are made home by the offices, principals, the nurse, and then sometimes they just provide education as any time that they can. Hey, you know, if your child is not running a fever, or, you know, those simple information for parents, then, you know, you send them to school. I think it's going well. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes, you know, students are continuing to be absent. But I know that our staff has been doing home visits too. I know high school does home visits often.
One analogy, sometimes teams, to a basketball analogy, wait till the fourth quarter when they're behind to put on the full court press. We have said, put on the full court press quarter 1. Now is the time. We have to have students in school if they're going to learn. There are some reasonable exceptions when students are facing true crises that they might be chronically absent. But there is no reason, except for very unique cases, for a student to miss that many days. And we need to have our parents and our community partner with us. Please send your kids to school unless there's something extremely urgent happening. So I would say, based on the data we have right now, we're doing good. We're not doing great. We're doing well, but we can do better.
I agree with that. Curriculum, tons of work has been done around curriculum. That started over the summer. So you saw that in the summer update, all of the work that started with ELA and math. So we're taking that work and we're just continuing it. So our teams are making sure to write high quality assessments that are vertically aligned throughout the grade levels. They're following, they're looking and referencing the rigor of IAR and making sure that we're providing a rigorous assessment and education for our students. We adopted Benchmark in kindergarten through 5th grade, and we adopted Amplify in 6th through 8th grade. And our high school math team has been partnering with the junior high math team, and they've been working with them every other week, and that's been going really well. So I'm going to speak a little more to that. Just in terms of the high quality assessments, I've been working with 1st grade in math, and they've been doing, and ELA, and they've been doing an absolutely fantastic job creating, they're all on board, they're creating these high quality assessments, they're referencing the benchmark assessments and making them their own and making sure that we're hitting the entirety of each standard. I've worked with junior high math on creating math assessments. Their math assessments are absolutely amazing. They've referenced the curriculum, the resource that we've purchased, they're referencing IAR, they're referencing the curriculum that they created and wrote, and they're making sure that their assessments are of high quality, and they look amazing at this point in time. It's really wonderful to see all of the teams, how hard they're working and how much they're really trying to grow, and they've just been working incredibly hard. I observed a class in junior high, Sergio Gonzalez today. I observed him. He is amazing. So the Amplify curriculum, that resource that the junior high purchased for ELA, is super high quality. The vocabulary is just taken up a notch, the academic vocabulary. And when I went into Sergio's room today, I mean, it was probably as perfect of a lesson I could have seen. His vocabulary, his relationship with the students, he's taking everything from this Amplify curriculum and just making it even better, using engagement structures with the students. So everything that has been put into practice, our teachers are just running with it. So that's been an exciting thing to see. We've built action plans. You've seen those action plans, or we've talked a little bit about those. We've had individual meetings with the leaders and district office administrators, and our principals provide updates at every principal meeting. Communication, there's a weekly staff update that comes from the office, the central office, and then there's been incredible follow-through from every single person on the COSD 201 team. So we've done walkthroughs, leaders are present during those collaborative team meetings, and there's just frequent follow-up on the action plan and the progress. So there's a lot to celebrate, and it's been really an exciting first quarter. And that's it for this. Do you have any questions, or?
I'll just start and say that I appreciate this. I think it's one of the things that to see from the standpoint of speaking about the strategic plan and what we want, and reaching those goals, or even, I know we have to reach goals, but reaching a goal of coming up with metrics.
Yeah.
We've asked, like, what are we looking at? What are we, you know, how do we know what we're doing and how well we're doing or not well? So it's just refreshing to hear you speak of that, because that's one big goal that we had, is to say that we want the strategic plan and what we're looking at, but the how. And so while I'm sure there's much more for me to understand, I see that it's being done. So.
Oh, good. That's so exciting. Yeah. I mean, our staff are working so hard. So I don't know if, Jack, you want to speak to that too, but they are.
Yeah, I'm
really
very grateful that the staff has taken the work on with seriousness and a sense of urgency, because we have work to do. As excited as I am about the work that's been done, we need to see that growth, and we have not seen it at the levels that we expect. So the work is being put in now, and the payoff will come.
It will.
But it needs to happen, because you can see from the state report, our growth levels are not where they need to be for our students.
Do you think there's any hangover from COVID years, or is that a cop-out?
We were rated commendable prior to COVID in the elementary schools.
Yeah.
So
I mean the growth.
the growth, there is an impact of COVID that cannot be denied, but that's something that the whole state experienced.
Right.
But yes, that is a part of the equation, But I think the bigger part of the equation is we not only have to work hard, we have to do the right work. And we have not been specific enough in the analysis of student performance and then having the interventions and reteaching driven by that specific student performance. That's on us. So yes, to answer your question, Kevin, it's a good point. A part of it is the COVID hangover. That's a part of it. A bigger part of it is what we can do to address student growth.
And I like this, like, you're looking at specific areas that really need to be targeted. So,
Student by student, skill by skill is the mantra.
Right.
We need to know which students and which skills, where they're strong and where they need to get stronger. So if you don't dial down to that level of specificity, you can't make an impact. If it's general, then you're guessing. When you know which students and which skills, you can intervene in a more powerful way.
Exactly.
And I think we've asked this a bunch.
Sure.
And I think you've said it. So kind of day to day, we're looking at iReady.
Yeah, so IAR is the big, like, competition at the end of the year, right? And so if you're thinking of it in sports, that's your, like, big, you've learned so much through the year, you're going to show off at that. But, like, our iReady is our local assessment that we have that we can use throughout the year, and we can kind of monitor growth and progress through that. And then we have our unit assessments that, you know, come up every couple of weeks, and then all of the progress monitoring that our teachers are doing every single day. And they really look at that every Wednesday.
And we are confident that using iReady will prepare us and, I guess, propel us to having that big competition
The big
goal.
championship at the
Right.
end, yeah.
That is a good preparation.
iReady, there is a correlation, definitely a correlation to IAR. It's not perfect, but there's a correlation, and you can, what's nice about iReady is it does have a growth component to it, so you can see, the iReady growth calculation is slightly different than the IAR growth calculation, but you can still see that the kids are growing, and they have an individual growth goal for each student, so you can see the percentage of kids who met their growth goals. So it's a good measure to kind of to see.
The iReady is a good tool to give us feedback, but the most powerful work is the work that the teachers are doing every day when they're giving their own formative assessments too, and they're drilling down to figure out where students are strong and need to get stronger. And then they use those assessments in a formative way to build student confidence and help lift students up and give them the specific feedback they need to become better learners and to grow their achievement. But iReady is a tool. Yes.
Couple of things. I love to see, especially something that calls out particularly is the math teams partnering right from the high school and the junior high, and that K through 12 integration. It's so much of what we've been talking about for a number of years, and it's a big chunk of the reason why we did the grade level center move, right, so that we could really just focus on that instead of two separate schools. But that K through 12, right, talking is just massive. And I think I just want to speak to the time that's spent on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Right. There are, I suspect, a number of people who don't realize how much of this work is done on Wednesdays when we have that early dismissal day. So can you speak a little bit to that, of like, why do we get out an hour early on Wednesdays, and how is this tied to that hour early on Wednesdays?
Wednesdays, that is my favorite day of the week, because I love PLC. I love PLC work, and I think that's where your growth, and that's where you get your biggest bang for your buck, is when the teachers on the teams are talking. They're talking about student data, student by student, skill by skill, and that's when they're really looking at those individual students and how they're really going to bump them up. And they're answering 4 questions. They're answering, but the big questions they answer on that day are, what are we going to do if a student has not mastered that skill? And then what do we do with the students who have mastered the skill? So we're looking at all students and nobody's left out. And we're really just making sure our kids are continuing to grow. And I think that formative assessment piece that happens every Wednesday that we talk about, that's where you're really getting those students to grow, because at those meetings too, they're planning those interventions that they're providing for those kids to help them, just every single kid in the entire school grow. So, Jack, this is his
Absolutely. I
work
love
too,
Leah's
PLC
question.
work.
It would be, the students get out early on Wednesday, most of them do, but the teachers are still working, so
Yes.
I know you know that, but.
I mean, I know that, but I know lots of people who do not know
Unity needs-
that.
Yes. I don't, here's the
They
thing,
are
there's a
working
couple
hard.
good points, yeah. It would be easier for teachers if they just continue with a regular school day on Wednesday, and I know that's why you're asking the question. The teachers work harder in many ways because of the Wednesdays. They have to really delve into their work, so, and they're not getting less, they're working, and they're working hard during that time, and many times they exceed the contractual time, and they continue working too.
Yes, they do.
So that's so that's true for all the teachers in the district. They're working harder because of the work. There's no question. And they don't, most of them don't quit at the end of the contract day. They keep working. But the other thing is, the Wednesdays were instrumental in the ascension of the high school. The high school would not have moved so far without the work of the Wednesdays. So I appreciate the question, but it's crucial, because if you're not reflecting and looking at that data and collaborating, you're not going to get maximum performance. And that's what we're starting to see district-wide, and the teachers work very hard.
They do.
All the time, but especially on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, I'm not sure with the elementary level, like, the teachers are doing all this work, but there's many times, like you said, not all students, many times, there's still students in the building learning.
Yes.
Or guided some way that those kids are not leaving yet. And
Yeah, so that's a really good, junior high got really creative, and they do have students staying after school and working on interventions during that time, some students, and then they have those teachers who worked with those students and missed their Wednesday meeting, they make up that meeting at a different time during the week. So, yeah, that
And that just
definitely
speaks
are
to the
kids.
commitment of it, that they are willing to even make up meetings because they are attending to
Yes.
a student. So.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about the high school also, right? So much of our path and so much of this board's ask of the administration is sustainability in financial affairs, right? But also sustainability of performance. So when we talk about Miller being the foundation,
Yes.
the high school has achieved incredible things. And it didn't do that without the other schools. So the thought, right, I get excited personally when I think about the other schools, right, the 2 grade schools, the 2 elementaries and the junior high reaching an exemplary status, because that work will be so much easier to sustain at the high school and at all the levels, right? We are talking about a ton of hard work right now. But when we integrate that, right, pre-K to 12, truly pre-K to 12, when we integrate it all the way up, the work is easier longer term because it's part of it. It is just part of the culture. It is part of this culture of excellence. So that's the stuff that, like, as I see it, and every time it's like, ooh, now this group is talking to this group, and it's like, that's the part that I'm like, sustainability.
It's very exciting work. Yeah.
So really, yeah, thank you.
That's really exciting work. Anything else?
Look forward to the next one.
All right, good. Yeah, we'll have the next quality review meeting in January, so then we'll update you at that time too. And then if you want any other updates in between, we're happy to share.
Thank you for all your leadership on this too.
Of course.
It's been great.
All right, we'll go to our,
Thank you.
there are no other questions at our discussion points. We'll go to our next item, the 2024-2025 calendar.
Okay, so this is still malleable and a work in progress. You have 2 examples. I really appreciate the calendar committee and Lindsay Peterzak putting together this little information guide that everybody received. It kind of outlines the differences between the 2 options, And there is a chance, based on some feedback from the board, and we'll do some more partnering with parents and teachers, but we could maybe come up with a hybrid. The major differences, Lindsay outlines, I think there is a recognition that maybe we need to do a little more front-loading teacher institute days at the beginning of the year. So the calendar A provides for an additional day of that kind of work to front-load for Teacher Institute. Both calendars really start fairly early, August 12th. They both have the midweek start date for students, especially for our pre-K students, to kind of dip their toes and then come head-on the following week. The SIP days are strategically placed, so we can take a look at the iReady data and do other things. Now, there is a big difference in the two conference schedules, and I think we'll get to that just momentarily. In calendar A, it's more of what we've done in the past with the two-day conferences, and then the last day of school on the calendar A is before Memorial Day. Now, the difference, there's a couple of small differences between calendar A and calendar B. There's one less institute day at the start of the school year in calendar B. Our preference is to have the 3 days, but we're open to opportunities. The unique difference in calendar B is shifting. If you look at the last day of October and the first days in November, we're shifting the PLC day from a Wednesday to a Thursday. Quite frankly, the elementary students are in Halloween mode, and that's not the most productive day. And so there's a truncated day. And then November 1st would be an institute day. So that way it kind of provides a little bit of a fall break for families, if you see that. Then this is the major difference, and I want to be very careful in noting this. This has not been approved by our teachers union, and it's not within the contract parameters. So we would have to get agreement from the union to be a part of this. But I think there's some teachers who are very open to this, and it could be a good move for our district. But I want to be cautious to say that we have to get the agreement of our teachers before we could do this portion of the plan, which is going to one full day of parent conferences on November 4th. So it would still provide for parents to come in the morning if they worked evenings and then come in the nighttime if they work during the day. So they'd have the same number of contact hours to be able to meet with teachers. But we would, instead of doing the 2-day, we would do a 1-day on November 4th. Now, the other piece is that November 5th next year is a election day that's a mandated day off. So this is one of the major differences in the calendar. So there would almost be this little mini fall break where there'd be institute day or early release on Thursday. Teachers would work, but students would not be in attendance on Friday. The weekend, Monday parent-teacher conferences, Tuesday election day, and come back. Does this make sense?
I like it.
Yes, I want to just reiterate, the
It has to have
teachers
approval, right?
union has to approve this, and we'd have to have some talk before that would, but make that
But
an
that
option.
one is parent-teacher conference, so it's not necessarily.
So the teachers will be working, but
Or kids in the school.
It is, but it's a little different way of
Right.
organizing it.
Yeah.
And our contract currently says that we do the early release on the Thursday and then have conferences in the evening, and then we do Friday morning conferences and then Friday off. So I don't want the board thinking that we want this, because if this is what you prefer, I want to say there's still a piece that has to have agreement from the teachers union to honor that.
then I was gonna say, does calendar A have, if you went to a normal, I didn't compare, if you go to the normal schedule then, with it being on a Friday, Saturday?
Yeah, we've maintained the traditional teacher conferences that we've done for a few years now.
So that would take place
October 24th, 25th.
the week before Halloween, okay.
Yes, the 24th and 25th, as Adina said. Similar to, this year it's on the
Yeah.
25th and 26th, so, or what is it, 26th,
26,
Yeah,
27,
26,
yeah.
26th, 27th, so it's.
Is it any, like the I guess we would have to hear from them, because I would want to hear what's the pro for like both times, or the cons. Or one thing I'm thinking about, the semester ends, but there's 2 to 3 weeks before you conference about it.
That's what I was thinking. How does this affect the end of Q1? Because the end of Q1 drives parent-teacher conferences, essentially, right?
But you end up
It's-
pushing
it's-
it back
it-
a week and a half?
it's
Or
pushing
not
it back
even
about a
and
week,
half?
yeah. I think at that point in the year, it's still a good time for, teachers have worked with the students long enough to be able to give some strong information to parents. It's only a week's difference, if that makes sense. Then continuing is, there's a few more days in quarter one if you go with Schedule B for pro and con there. And there's more days in semester 2, not many more. They're not that dissimilar. I would leave it to everybody else to discuss. The major difference that I see is the Institute Day up front versus not. The really big difference is kind of packaging those days together in the fall.
And then the other is, so registration is registration. I wouldn't.
Right.
Yes.
There's no difference. And
No.
And now 1 day. Is registration earlier?
That is earlier, yeah.
So the calendar committee needs to meet again, but we want to take some feedback from the board. If people on the calendar committee and if the board felt strongly about calendar B, there would have to be teacher union approval for that.
I would like to hear from the teachers on that calendar B with that early dismissal, because I mean, I've seen historically that the kids are not necessarily focused around the holiday. And then they're definitely not focused when they come to school the day after the holiday,
Yeah.
so.
So this would kind of create a little mini break there for families who want to take advantage of.
Which could lead to all year school someday.
I didn't bring that up.
So, I mean, you're kind of seeing some of this right now. You can digest it. It would be useful if you want to start discussing, or if you want to give us some feedback, we could provide that to the calendar committee, and then they could proceed and,
Do they have any right now? I guess they're waiting for information too, but do they have a preference or anything right now?
I think there's a slight preference for calendar A, but,
They're not, so, I mean, some years they feel very strongly.
yeah, Peggy's on the committee, so she's, yes. Can you come forward?
The comments, we never heard what she said.
Yeah, the teachers don't really know about the Calendar B situation yet, so they would have to know and think about it, and I'm sure there probably would be pretty much a divide. I'm guessing probably almost 60-40 at best between teachers that would want it and teachers that would not want it, so just because some are not always partial to change, takes them a little bit while to think about that and prepare for that, but having enough time and giving them a little bit of time to think about it, discuss it, and talk about it. And they probably would put out a survey pretty quickly and ask, what is your preference for calendar A or calendar B? So I would say that's pretty much how teachers would feel about it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody has any questions?
I mean, this is how we process, right? We're
Right.
being collaborative, and I think what Peggy said is very valid. But if the board had thoughts, then we could communicate that to the calendar committee and to the teachers, and then we could process. So, the question, which is a good one, is I think the calendar A is pretty standard and very minor changes. And then calendar B has that one new component. So I guess if board members are prepared right now to offer opinions, that would be great. Or if you need a little time and process, we could take that feedback and share it with the calendar committee and then eventually with the teachers union.
And it's the calendar committee meeting.
They haven't, the
I'm
next
sorry,
calendar
I said, when
committee
is the
meeting.
next calendar committee meeting?
Because when does this need to be approved? When does our calendar need to be approved for the next month?
Next
I
month.
normally approve it at the November meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. at
We
the
have a little time to process.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love that you guys put registration on there.
Yes. Give everybody a heads up.
That little July bright, and it's bright green. It's like registration. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to see. I mean, I like the idea of having a little break in October, something that has, I think, is starting to sneak into the districts, and maybe not all year school, but maybe just like turning Thanksgiving break into a break, and that Monday, Tuesday situation, turning that into a week off. I don't know that the calendar committee has discussed it or has ever, and I'm not saying let's do that this year. I'm just putting it out there as like something for the calendar committee to think about. It seems like this year's calendar, and this is part of the holidays falling on different days it seems like this year's calendar, it might be a good opportunity to take this Thursday Halloween and kind of do a little bit of a fall break, if you will, around that. It seems like the holiday might benefit that, but maybe next year it makes more sense to take a week off in November, because same as the kids, the middle grade kids being super effective on Halloween, and the day after Halloween, right? How effective are we on that Monday, Tuesday? What is our attendance on that Monday, Tuesday of Thanksgiving week? Does that drop down pretty significantly? So, those things, right?
Yeah, I can tell you that, I've done the calendar committee a lot of years, and every year it's discussed about having the week off at Thanksgiving. And one of the reasons we don't want to take that many days off is because it gives quite an imbalance to the two semesters. Mm-hmm. If you're going to take all those days off, you're going to have first semester have to go in after the winter break, unless you want to start August 1st. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're already starting August 14th.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Like, I'll be honest, we already start a full week sooner than, which I understand, because
Makes
it's
sense.
instruction days, and it's
Right.
getting our kids as many instruction days before testing, getting our kids.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a bit of like,
Well, and it's really because we're a unit district, keeping the semesters balanced for junior high and high school for their finals.
Yeah.
That's a big consideration for it. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't been doing it. We did do it one year. I don't know if people remember when we did do it about 7 or 8 years ago. And we had conferences then, so the kids came for a half a day on that Monday morning, then they were off for conferences. We had a lot of parents who did not show up for conferences. They left on Friday night for their Thanksgiving break and did not do conferences.
well, and I'm going to be honest, that was something I thought about with the conferences on the 4th.
Yeah.
Is that if we turn it into and now the 5th,
Long weekend, right?
arguably everybody's got to be back on the 5th, but not necessarily with mail-in voting. A lot of people do not vote, right? So that also that was kind of one of my thoughts, was like, if we make that into a 4-day weekend.
Now, it would depend on how much you would willing to depend on virtual conferences. Because then that could make a difference. You might end up with, even though you're taking a break, parents still could show up for conferences virtually. So if they're in South Carolina or wherever they're at.
Yeah.
But my concern with that, like we were talking about fall break, it's like we have a break at the beginning of November, and then we're breaking again. Even though it's from Wednesday, November is pretty short.
Yes, yes. That's why you're going
And
to
talking
start
about younger
much
kids
earlier
who are
in
a
August.
groove, or even high school.
It'll give
Like, they're kinda
everybody
in
a
a groove with their studies.
Good
and
brain
their-
break.
and, getting into, their different classes that month is
The
very
consideration of the kids being off in such large chunks and
choppy.
coming
In that
back.
1 month too. Like,
Yeah. Mhm. Oh,
Yeah, a chunk and then 2 weeks back and then another chunk.
And just 3 weeks in December. Like, it's already a holiday choppy. So that's my concern with around the November 4th, 5th.
An early November and a late
Thanks,
November
Peggy.
break, essentially. is
Thank
what
you,
you're talking
thank you.
about, yeah.
So that's my thoughts on that. That gives me kind of pause. But
This could also be because of the election day, doing it just one time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's part, right, it's part of the interest of the calendar every year is that these holidays
Shift.
shift and change, and I don't want to say throw things off, but they give us opportunities to try things. And if this is a good year, is a good opportunity to try this in a world where conferences can be remote, or a chunk of them remote, like a time that's remote, kind of like what we're doing this year, where Thursday's in person and Friday's remote. Like, there's an opportunity to try something, and there's not a lot of reasons not to try it. Then I'm in favor of trying something, because you never know what you're going to get. You miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Oh,
That's my only
sports
sports
analogy.
analogy. It's the only one I got. So, I mean, but I would want to, understand where the staff is at and those pieces. I think it can be frustrating for the parents in the community when we have lots of little days off. Lots of 1 days. And it's like, oh, it's another one day off week. Like, I think that can be a little more frustrating. So that's my take on it.
does the board would you need some time, or does the board want to have preferences as to what?
I know, it's just maybe from you, like the general thoughts from the team. I think hearing about, like, I necessarily have to have Peggy back or whatever, but I know it's exactly what you're saying, taking some of our thoughts to them, and then the committee getting with the teachers. But if there's any way we can throw in, hey, this is where they are before you have to vote on this, just some feedback from the committee and the teacher, whatever they've gotten from the teachers. It's just good to hear it, and then because we'll discuss it more and vote that day in November. But if there's a time, do we vote the first meeting? No, it's only one
We have
meeting.
one meeting in November.
One meeting in November, yeah. Because
Maybe
of
with
those
your
short
updates
weeks.
is
Yeah.
any feedback that they have before we discuss it and vote this November meeting.
So
It's not much time.
it is flying by. So I think the calendar committee expressed a preference for, we have to present two of them.
Yeah.
Right.
So they said that calendar A would be the preference, but they could do a hybrid. So I guess what I would like to hear is we could put it back in the hands of the calendar committee. They have already expressed the calendar A is the preference.
I guess the feedback in your correspondence would be there's no change in their recommendation like that. And I would take that even before, we get to our voting time. I don't know if there are any other questions.
No, just a side note, would they still consider doing the Halloween as a PLC day, just shifting that just for giggles and?
That's a great point. There's no reason not to do that,
Right.
quite frankly. That's a great move for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
So that could
And
be,
run their energy off way before 8 o'clock.
yes. So, and it really, this is one thing I would like some board, if the board really wants to promote the idea of trying to do that mini break, in some ways it is a break, in some ways it's not, because the teachers will still do.
Break for families, not
Yes.
so much for the teachers.
Exactly. The teachers would be there for Institute Day, and the teachers would obviously be there for parent-teacher conferences. Parents could elect to take some extended time off. The kids would get a break.
Right.
That's another one. But as Adina said, they have another one coming in 2 more weeks after that. So,
There'll be the same kind of feedback, whatever calendar we approve, as it always is.
Yes.
Positive and negative.
the one caveat is if the board really likes that idea of trying to pursue the break, we have to run that by the teachers and get their approval. And since it's already, believe it or not, the end of October, and we need to approve a calendar in November, we have to get that going really quick to get the teacher feedback and approval.
So I guess you need direction from us.
Are we straw polling this?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, straw poll.
Pardon?
Are we straw polling this then?
Yeah, I
Which
think
we
so.
go-
We have to give them direction on, are they gonna
I-
try to do a survey and then,
I would like to survey calendar B. That's my opinion.
I agree, B.
B.
Yeah.
If you want my vote, I was okay with A.
A-okay with A.
But so
But I
basically,
think,
yes.
I'd like to understand the staff.
Right.
Right.
So, and then what are we asking? Are we asking to do the early, asking them to give feedback on this, the early kind of,
Early dismissal on Halloween, day off after,
Right.
and then conferences on that Monday.
right, that's
I
okay.
think moving, either way, we could do a hybrid, either way, we could move the PL, the Wednesday data meeting
Yeah.
to a Thursday. That's easily done. The whole piece about moving parent-teacher conferences is what's gonna be a
Yeah.
little bit tricky, and bundling it the way that they've proposed in calendar B.
I mean, I think it's a good opportunity to test a one-day parent-teacher conference
Right.
situation.
I would be curious as to how teachers feel about that too.
I mean, I think about that Thursday and I'm like, oh, good Lord, that is a long freaking day. I mean, I
Right.
get it, you
Yeah.
get a half day on Friday, but I don't know
Yeah, but
that
that's a
that's
long
balance.
day
That
and
is
then a half
long
day, yeah.
day, you know?
Well, I think I have some feedback from everybody that I can give to the calendar committee, that we can give to the calendar committee, and then let them do some work. And then I think they'll probably come up, they'll come up with maybe a hybrid and maybe also and another option.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Thank you.
thanks, Peggy.
We'll continue with you, Jack, to the superintendent's report.
I'm going to just say thank you to Dr. Braun and everybody in the district who's working so hard on the action planning that you just heard about. I'll let that serve as most of my report. And just a notice to our teachers and our staff and our students and parents to please, we talked about committing to 20 minutes a day of reading at least. It really benefits our students greatly. It enhances their lives and their thinking. And there's so many other things that are pulling at their time, but I hope that everybody takes that seriously and finds a piece of every day just to do the reading, so.
Any other questions for Jack? All right, we'll move to board reports.
I have a question. Whose laptop is that? That we process everything on, to put on the screen?
Villages.
It's the Villages. So I would have to open up my email to show something on that?
Yeah.
Does anybody have
Is it-
anything else to say? Do
you have a USB
we don't
drive?
have to, no, we don't have to. I was gonna show the flyer for the Illinois Reads. The flyer finally came out. Yes, I can, Carla.
Do you have access to your email there?
I can log in.
All right. I'm gonna actually forward you an email because I emailed it from my personal to my district email. Forward. Here we go. All right, sent.
Do we do the FOIA? Are you good with that?
I am, we don't usually.
Good.
I have a question about doing that.
There it is.
That's
Look
a
at
nice
that.
flyer.
Just
Teamwork
wanted to
there.
talk about
That's
that
teamwork.
again. Thank you to Edith and her team for putting together this flyer. Westmont High School is hosting Illinois Reads, and it will be in February. And if you look at the lovely books at the bottom, there are QR codes there to sign up to volunteer, to look at the book list from birth to adults that Illinois Reads puts out, the IRC. And then there is a sponsorship information on the little brown book on the right. There are QR codes on there that you can scan and get involved. We have our second meeting in person November, I want to say 9th. I believe it's 9th.
Has this posted out to the?
This has posted out. The community
Yeah.
did it on the school page. I posted it to a lot of social media today, and
Awesome.
the village should be posting it on their website soon as well.
Okay, just so if they missed the QR codes.
Yes, November 8th, it's a Wednesday, so it'll be Wednesday in person at the junior high. So, yeah, that's what we got going on right there, and then we found out Ascend is the day before, so it's gonna be a busy weekend in February. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ange. And to Edith, and to Amy Quattrone, who's really leading this effort. And the last time that CUSD 201 hosted this, it was a huge event.
And it was the
This is the kickoff.
It was the kickoff event. It was the first time they ever did event was in Westmont.
Yes.
Kind of using this as an opportunity to relaunch it.
Yes.
They haven't had the event in 3 years due to COVID.
Thanks, Carla.
Welcome. That's a really nice flyer.
Yeah.
Okay, any other reports? All right, we'll go to our future meetings and events. So tomorrow, we'll have the strategic plan committee meeting with the focus on the equity audit at 5:30 at South School. The Fine Arts Jazz Night at tomorrow also, 7 p.m. Westmont High School. So if we are efficient, we can go help support the band who's going to Disney. The parent-teacher conferences and SIP Day on the 26th. Just take a look at the website if you're looking, or you need to refresh the dismissal times. And on the 27th, there's no student attendance, but the virtual, am I saying that right? Yeah, the virtual parent-teacher conference day. And then we have the Westmont High School Fall Play on November 3rd and 4th at 7 p.m. BPAC is having their next meeting November 7th at 6 p.m. There's the CUSD 201 Elementary PTO meeting November 7th at 7 p.m. And then our next meeting is the only meeting in November for the CUSD 201 board is at 6 p.m. on November 14th at Village Hall. Finance Committee meeting November 15th at 3:30 p.m. And then the PR Committee meeting November 20th, 6 p.m.
It's a lot of meetings.
We don't need to re-enter closed session, all right? And now the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the October 24th, 2023 regular meeting of the CUSD 201 Board of Education.
Second.
Any opposed? All those in favor? You did that first. Meeting adjourned.